are doing the Facebook Live tasting of Bulleit Bourbon. This is called, I call this series Whiskey Live. We have 5 panelists tonight. We're gonna just wait a couple more minutes.
We could only have to introduce them once.
We did tonight, yes, so that we only have to do it once.
Yeah.
And then we did tonight. We got the Bourbon Girls there again. When this first started out, everybody, this was me. And then John joined me a couple times, and all of a sudden Young Nose joined me a couple times, and then Xavier joined, and then we got the Bourbon Girls last time, and honestly, the Bourbon Girls made it.
Oh yeah.
If it wasn't for the Bourbon Girls and Greg Schneider, we wouldn't be having very many people doing this. But tonight's pre-drink, we did a bourbon, which is a Bulleit Bourbon tonic, which was a jigger of Bulleit Bourbon, and then 4 ounces tonic, and then I did some lemon zest and some lemon twists that I squeezed in, and then put the lemon zest around the rim, causing this to be a whiskey tonic.
Quite a delightful drink.
Yeah, it is.
We're still 1 minute away, but cheers everybody, because this is going to be fun tonight.
Cheers.
Cheers, ladies.
Cheers. Cheers.
Tink, 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 tink.
Still not 9 o'clock. We'll be doing it in 2 seconds. 9 o'clock we'll start it. The Whiskey Live tasting of Bulleit Bourbon. What we like to do here is we really like to pick a tasting bourbon that is available on the shelf and a reasonable cost to the viewers, so that you can. We post about a week in advance what the bourbon's going to be, and then we post reminders, and then every Friday morning, sometimes Young Nose and I, sometimes just me, we do a video reminding everybody we're going to have this tasting tonight. But it is 9 o'clock, but with this tasting, then like I said, we like to get something so that you can taste along. But if you can't get something and taste along with us, feel free to go to your cabinet, pull out your favorite bourbon, and then drink along with us, because that's kind of what this is about on a Friday night. We're all kind of hunkered down, and there's not a lot to do these days. So I figure, and we figure, this is the way to go. So this is Whiskey Live. We are the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Scotchy Bourbon Boys is a Facebook group on Facebook, of course, and then
allow myself to introduce myself.
Yes, and then we have here
Xavier.
We have here
Young Nose.
I'm Tiny, and then the Bourbon Girls back there.
Scotchy Bourbon Girls.
And they are part of the Scotchy Bourbon.
Mrs. Tiny.
Mrs. Tiny.
And Mrs. Xavier.
Xavier.
You heard of a blind taste test? Tonight we have a blonde taste test.
Their tasting is what they taste and their palates are very important. So what we do is we give a little bit of history about Bulleit Bourbon and go over. I have the Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible, which I'm going to have Young Nose read tonight because I forgot my glasses. So that'll be a lot easier for you to do that. But we read from there, and then we have a review off of Breaking Bourbon. And then also we have information and history on Bulleit Bourbon. The Bulleit Bourbon was, to this day, I got that right. Now, here we go. A tavern keeper in the 1830s of Louisville, Kentucky, August Bulleit, was dedicated to a single goal: the creation of a bourbon unique in flavor. After experimenting with countless varieties, he finally came upon a bourbon with the character he had long sought after. One fateful day, when transporting his barrels of bourbon from Kentucky to New Orleans, August Bulleit vanished. What happened is still unknown, and his creation nearly disappeared into history along with him. And that's one thing that we wanted to talk about when it was common to ship the whiskey down the Mississippi River, and usually the river the boat ride down the river was fairly safe. I mean, compared to in those days when you're talking about there was nothing safe. But from a standpoint, the bourbon reached New Orleans. But upstream, you didn't take the river back. You had to get transportation back to Kentucky. And that was a very dangerous, what happened to August happened to a lot of people. There's a lot of times that the distillers would hire people to take it down and come back because the ride back was so dangerous. So then, in 1987, Tom E. Bulleit Jr. fulfilled a lifelong dream of reviving an old family bourbon recipe by starting the Bulleit Distilling Company. Inspired by his great-great-grandfather, August Bulleit, who made a high rye whiskey between the 1830s and 1860s, Tom left a successful law practice and risked everything to experience life on the frontier. Today, we're not the only one who are glad he did. Okay, so anyways, with Tom, I got a little insight right before we did this from Greg Schneider, who really has been a part of the whiskey making industry the whole time, and kind of initially Tom, when he started the distillery, Bulleit Distillery, he was having Four Roses make the distillate and then aged it and was distributing Bulleit bourbon. But Diego bought out Tom, even though or became owners, and at that point, Four Roses decided to bail out. So then, what happened is they had to start buying sourced whiskey. So I know that the MGP sourced a lot of their rye, but as far as the bourbon aspect of what was sourced, mostly it's a secret. Most people don't know where the bourbon was coming from. It's still a very good whiskey, Diego. They put a small distillery in the stizel-weller. They acquired the stizel-weller distillery. They put a small kind of a token distillery in there. It did produce, but wasn't producing at the rate that they needed to produce the bourbon. So they built one in Shelbyville, and that one, he said that it hasn't transitioned smooth. So right now they are building another distillery, which is almost ready to open in Lebanon. So that's the history. That gives you a nice background to what Bulleit bourbon is and where it comes from. The reason why we know that MGP did not produce the Bulleit bourbon is because it's Kentucky straight bourbon and MGP is in Indiana, so they're not producing that. So with that said, we are about to do the tasting. Would you like to go over the rating system that we are going to produce tonight?
Sure. While you're opening the bottle and pouring? Sure.
Yes.
Tonight's rating system is a little bit different from our podcast, if anybody listens to the podcast. On there we have a bongo bashing, banging rating system out of 16. Here we do the traditional out of 100 score, so a 25 points for the 4 categories of nose, taste, body, and finish. Pretty standard. Basically a 50 range would be your average score, and then higher or lower depending on your palate. So.
I need yours.
Yep, you need a Glencairn glass for me. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of technical aspects of Bulleit bourbon, courtesy of Breaking Bourbon. Were you done with the?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the mash bill is 68 corn, 28 rye, and 4% malted barley. That mash bill is straight across on Bulleit products. On the last podcast...
No, Jim Murray.
Jim Murray. Okay. On the last podcast, it's the first bookmark.
It.
Okay. And it's on the left side.
Got it.
The last podcast, we went through 4 expressions of Bulleit, Xavier and I. And those 4 expressions were the 95 rye. We then went to the Bulleit bourbon, and then it was the barrels, or actually the master or the blender select, and then we finished with the barrel proof Bulleit. And quite frankly, all three bourbons were pretty damn good, weren't they?
I was impressed with the rye as well, yes.
So now, did you? Yes, I did that on there. It's not complimentary, but Jim Murray, the Whiskey Bible, we have.
I mean, he's
we
a
have the
straight
company.
shooter when it comes to this. You can't really knock him for it. But it's
Yes, he's gonna. It's an honest opinion.
His wording is just funny.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So
Feel free to give the wording.
we'll continue with Breaking Bourbon. I was just pre-reading,
Oh.
so I knew what I was saying
Everything just disappeared.
before
All right, here we go.
before we got to it.
Let's
so.
do that. Okay, there it is. Hi.
Now you see us, now you don't.
Okay.
Well, they still saw us. We just couldn't see ourselves.
Yes.
Oh, I see, now we see them, now we don't.
They still saw and heard us.
Everything just went bye-bye, but it's okay. Okay, the nose, courtesy of Breaking Bourbon, is equal amounts of vanilla, caramel, and orange zest. Overlay more tamer notes of smoke, cherry, and oak. There's a good amount of richness to the aroma, however, they're light on depth. I'm not reading well tonight, am I? An enjoyable spiciness bounces off the sweeter notes, but overall the nose is quite frank, straightforward, with little fuss. Now
Greg Schneider commented in a pronunciation correction. Diego is actually pronounced Diageo. Diageo.
Diageo?
Diageo.
All right.
Diageo.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
It's good to see that you're here. And just everybody wish Greg a happy birthday tomorrow.
Hey,
Oh, happy birthday,
I'm not going to
Greg.
say he's very young, so
Yeah.
happy birthday, Greg. I won't put that out there on you.
Cheers, man.
I see Mary Ann's there. Hi, Mary Ann. I get the caramel and the vanilla, and I really get the cherry. I love the cherry. I get a little bit of a. I don't get too much. I'm not getting the smoke, not on the nose. It's fresh. It's almost like as fresh as like a spring day. Maybe.
I get maybe a little bit of the smoke on the nose, just on an undertone.
What do you?
Not a full out smoke. It's definitely not as strong as a Scotchy smoke as far as peated or malt or anything like that. But it is there a little bit. It's more like a toasted oak kind of a smell. So maybe not necessarily the smoke, but like the hot coals after you're done with the fire. The next morning you wake up and you still got that smell. It's smoldering a little bit.
Yeah. What do you get?
I'm getting a delicate fruit flavor, maybe a little bit of apricot. I'm not really getting cherry, but definitely some caramel in there, and I don't really pick up any smoke.
Okay. How about the bourbon girls back there? What are you guys getting on your nose?
Citrus fruits, orange, lemon,
Yeah.
a little bit of spice, like a little cinnamon. You get any of those?
Just the caramel.
And some caramel. Well, yeah, caramel is obvious.
That's what I get the most of.
I get that cherry.
I like the smell.
All right. So there we go on the nose. The palate. A sweet caramel opening quickly transforms into a peppery oak bomb. Despite its light body, it still manages to have a creamy mouthfeel, and a palate surprisingly packs a burst of flavor. Unfortunately, this flavor pop is one-dimensional and not very complex, simply consisting of pepper and oak. Minor notes of cinnamon and ginger are present, but they struggle to shine over the bourbon's spiciness. All right, here we go.
So this is a
I guarantee you that I would say that based off that, I would say Mrs. Xavier is definitely going to like this one.
Oh, yeah. Yes, she
Yeah,
does.
definitely spicy.
definitely oaky.
I'm gone from spice. I'm sorry, guys. Bourbons aren't spicy to me. Okay, I gotta give you I never gave everybody the ABV.
It's 90 proof.
You're so mean. It's like, what the shit? It's like, how come?
Well, you can
What
say
is-
45% alcohol.
But
there you're
he's
different
45.
now.
I'm like, I go back, I'm gonna do it, and I'm like, yeah, it's nice.
Do it your way,
It's like,
Joe.
come on.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Tiny.
It's fine.
I mean, it's on the bottle and it's in Jim Murray's Bible.
Yes,
It's
okay.
stolen. It says it's
Okay.
90 proof.
Okay, so Jim Murray doesn't really give you any of the palate or the finish. He just gives a review. So we're gonna. So yes, okay. So now let's just do this taste one more time after it.
Many years ago, some of the lyrics go
Oh,
64.
Folks, I really like this bourbon.
Greg, that's hilarious, man.
What did he say?
Greg commented and said, "Cheers, boys. The Beatles wrote a song for me many years ago. Some of the lyrics go, will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Very
Awesome.
Man, this
Not far
this
behind
is
you.
actually. So I had a bad experience with Bulleit Bourbon. I was at a wedding, and I knew that it was before I really got into bourbon. It was probably a year before. I've been into it now for about 2.5 years. It was about a year before we were at this wedding, and I kind of knew about bourbon, so I knew Bulleit was it's a good bourbon, and they had it. So I was drinking Bulleit Bourbon pretty much all night. I probably had throughout the night 8 or 9 Bulleit Bourbons on the rocks. And by the end of the night, I should have been unable to do anything. And yet, I was completely and totally sober. I was firmly under the impression that somehow the Bulleit Bourbon that was in that bottle wasn't actually Bulleit Bourbon. And I didn't have a palate to understand. So I kind of had a bad experience with it, so I kind of stayed away. But this is actually, I do like the taste. This is my palate enjoys this. So as far as a drinkable bourbon, I don't get the spiciness. I get the hug,
Yeah,
and I
it's
get the
all
caramel butterscotch on the tip of my tongue when it first is kind of in there, and I really love that. And then the spiciness fills your whole mouth.
That's true.
I thought you said you didn't get the spiciness. Am I
No.
mistaken, or did I misunderstand?
I don't get the heat of the spiciness. I get a little bit of pepper, but it's not spicy to me.
Oh.
So the pepper fills my mouth, but I don't get that so hot and so peppery that it just, like he says, it's a pepper bomb.
I see.
I don't get a
I
pepper
would
bomb.
concur.
Yeah, I
That-
wouldn't agree with the pepper bomb.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's very spicy. Very, very, very much an explosion of
I get
pepper,
I get
cinnamon.
more of that toasted oak taste that lingered from the nose. I get that it's a heat. It definitely has a hug to it. Definitely has some warmth.
Yeah.
It does have some spice on the initial taste. It does have some spice there, but it quickly follows up with the oak tannins from the barrel for me.
Okay.
Good deal. What about the
So what
Mrs.
about
Tiny?
The
what about the
ladies.
bourbon
Mrs.
girls?
The
Mrs. Tiny?
ladies.
Mrs. Tiny goes first this time.
So I didn't expect to like it because you know I don't like the really spicy ones.
But you like the high proof ones.
I do. But
Doesn't
this
make any
actually,
sense.
I would have to agree that it's not overly spicy to me.
Right.
It reminds me of a really oaky Chardonnay, which you know I absolutely love, so I
Yeah.
will confer with John that I get a lot of the oaky flavor and a little bit of smoke. I didn't get
But-
the smoke on the nose, but I get the smoke on the,
But I would say that the oaky flavor is on the sweet oaky
Right.
flavor,
yes.
not a
the-
bitter oaky,
Right.
not a stained piece of oak,
This
more
is
of a
fresh
oak with
straight
some
off the
sugars left
tree,
in
just
there,
gnawing
right?
on some bark.
So I disagree with the whole pepper bomb
Okay, that's why you.
description. It has a nice warm hug, but it doesn't burn your esophagus. So
All right.
It's good.
Mrs. Xavier.
I like it.
Do you think it's a
Oh,
pepper
wait
bomb
Not many
or?
ones.
I taste
Michael
the
James
pepper,
Hyatt
but
says,
it's
"That
not as
dude next to
peppery
you
as some
dead?"
of the other ones.
Hit him and wake him up.
Who are you talking about? Are you talking
Must
about
be talking
Xavier?
about Bill.
What? I've been talking this whole
Xavier.
time.
Yeah, but you do kind of have a. You're just.
You
there.
have a stillness
But you're
about you.
Xavier.
I don't have to do anything.
No, you don't have to.
I just have to sit here
and drink
And
look
drink.
pretty.
and mother effing
Yeah.
drink.
All right, now we totally
All right.
cut Karen off, John.
Okay, what? Karen, go ahead.
I don't remember where I was at. Done.
You said not too spicy.
Okay.
It's spicy, but I've had others that were more spicy. And it's got a nice hug. It's not one of those burning ones. It opens your nose up real nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good COVID killer.
Yeah. Amen. Cheers.
Cheers. All right, so we're going to the finish. The bourbon, hard-fisted spiciness contributes until the very end. Spice, pepper, and oak dominate with notes of butterscotch, mint, and cherry. Wavering in and out, there is an enjoyable amount of smoothness and creaminess on the finish that keeps the peppery spice from being too hard to drink. This again
Yep.
surfaces level complexity on display. This again, surface level complexity on display, but just enough overall quality to make the bourbon enjoyable. All right, so that's where we're at with the finish. Now I gotta get I'm at the.
You gotta get more in your glass.
I still got it.
The finish is very short. It is not very long on the hug either. It definitely has a nice mouthfeel on the finish.
And it does definitely has a minty.
Yeah.
It's like you had just had a
Aftertaste.
breath mint.
Yeah.
I get the mint.
I would get that on there too. It's not a bad finish. It's probably not the best finish that I would prefer, but this is something that I would easily be able to drink. You know.
It's a nice finish. It's not overwhelming or underwhelming.
Yeah.
Right.
It's about par for the course.
I think this bourbon, from nose to taste to finish, and then the body, overall is kind of like a 4-course meal. It's kind of like the nose gets you hungry. The taste is there, and it's got some. To me, it has the caramel and the butterscotch, but then as it goes back, you get the oaky, smoky kind of taste.
The oaky smoky.
The
taste.
oaky
The
smoky.
oaky
Oh,
smoky
yeah.
taste, and then when it finishes, that is very fulfilling in your as far as your mouth goes. It fills your whole mouth, and then the finish is like you said, it's not long, but it's minty as if they gave you a mint at the end of the frickin' dinner. So it's just a 4-course meal to me. All right, what about the finish for you?
Michael James Hyatt wants the ladies to sit up front.
Oh, it's great! It's a great idea. Maybe that's eventually what'll have to happen, Michael.
Yeah, we'll just move the dead guy out of the way.
And the teenager.
Yeah, exactly.
teenager.
It's like Weekend at Bernie's, I'm just a corpse.
I'll just dominate. Look at I'm defining. Let's see. I'm defining the girls in my muscles.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Muscles?
Oh, scorch! Oh my God! Oh, that hurt.
I'm defining the girls in my fat. All right, come on.
All right, I think the finish is just a finish. It's a good finish. I don't, it's not above average or below average.
All right,
Mrs. Xavier.
Oh boy.
That's you. I like it.
Can you comment on the finish, Mrs. Xavier?
hey.
She likes the
Do
finish.
you think it's
Bill.
hot, cold, bad, good?
Is it buttery?
Good.
Start. Don't even start. Oh.
Oh, I think it's got long legs. All right.
It doesn't stick around too long.
No.
Kind of leaves quickly.
That's not a good attribute. All right, what do you think,
Oh my God.
woman?
Mrs. Tiny.
So it's got a nice, smooth finish that stays, I think the taste stays longer in my mouth than the finish, which is actually quite pleasurable because 30 seconds, a minute, a couple minutes after, you still have that nice, spicy taste in there.
You
I
get
don't know, I think I could drink this just straight without ice and not have any difficulties
Yeah.
enjoying it, so that's what I like about it.
so
Agreed,
you like it
yeah.
neat, and then
Yeah.
also, do you get the mintiness or no? Because I know you would definitely like the mintiness.
It's more like an Arctic blast in your mouth, like
Okay, so you're saying spearmint kind of
Or
like
wintergreen.
yeah, like
Winter
a winter.
green.
There you go, more like that.
Wintergreen.
Yeah.
All right, so that takes us to the point now.
All right, now it's time to put some numbers on the board.
We're starting to put some numbers. So, once again, Young Nose explained the thing. We would like everybody to chip in with their numbers, put them in. When it comes to the nose, we're going from 0 to 25. I am going to put the nose at 18.
I'll give it a 15. Young Nose, it's up to you.
Oh, okay. The nose was very pleasant for me, but it was pretty standard bourbon, so I would probably go right in between the both of you and put it at a 17.
Ladies?
You're actually closer to him than me, but who's?
I had already thought of my numbers
Because
in
I can't do a
advance,
half
so I gave the
score.
nose an 18.
Xavier. There are no
An
half
18.
scores.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
Same
I
as me?
could, but...
Yeah, that's what I had already decided.
Yeah.
Okay.
Karen or
Mrs. Xavier.
I would say about a 17.
17.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah.
okay.
It's not bad.
All right. So, taste. On this one, I don't agree quite with what the you should actually read the Jim Murray.
Okay,
Let's give what Jim Murray thought
is the
before
Jim
we
Murray
actually
time?
finish up.
Okay. Alright, so Jim Murray gave this bourbon a total of an 87 out of 100. So he gave it a 21 and a half out of on the nose, so I guess I can do half scores, Xavier. I gave it a 22 on the taste, a 21 on the finish, and a 22 on the body. His description was vanilla fashioned on both nose and flavor development. If it was looking to be big and brash, it missed the target. If it wanted to be gentle and understated with a slightly undercooked feel, yet always friendly, then bullseye.
Oh God.
So he was not impressed
Yes.
with this.
Although an
It wasn't-
87 is in the bad score.
So,
Right.
Tiny, what's your score on the taste?
On my taste, I would give this a 20.
I'll give it a 20. I think in some respects the pepperiness masks the taste, and that's one of the reasons why I gave the nose a low score, is that the nose does not betray or pretend the taste you're going to get. There's no consistency there.
Right,
But it was good. I'll give it a 20.
Right.
A good taste in bourbon.
Okay.
Taste.
Young Nose.
Taste for me is actually very good. I just had another refresher sip there, and it is definitely vanilla caramel up front. The pepper kind of lingers in, the spice kind of lingers in a little bit, but it does not power. I don't agree with the oak bomb, pepper bomb.
Pepper bomb.
Yeah, with breaking bourbon. There's a little bit there, but it's not overwhelming. I get a little bit of that citrus zest in the taste there, so I give this a 22.
All right. Mrs. Whichever one of you wants to
go first.
I also will give it a 22 for the taste.
20 also,
Yeah.
or
20
22?
22.
Just like John.
Double deuce.
Okay,
Yes,
double deuce.
I really like the taste of this bourbon. I like the citrus notes. I like the warm vanilla oaky flavor. I like that it's it's got spice, but it's not so spicy. So I will give it a 22. A resounding 22.
Mrs. Xavier.
And I will give it a 20. Of course, I like mine spicier.
a
I like it
reasonable
more
score.
peppery. So,
All right.
Are we going body or finish first?
Body.
Body.
All right. So I'd like to say one thing. Martin Duffy, a Scotchy bourbon boy, is responsible for these Glencairns. Glencairn is what the Scotchy bourbon boys taste
Completely awesome. Let me get that in front of me.
down there in the green light. Yeah, there you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
I don't know if you can, there you can see the there you can see the monogram on the
So,
etching.
if you order, it's out of the UK. It's the Glencairn Glass Company. Martin Duffy is the North American sales rep for the Glencairn Glass Company. Super guy, super friendly. We taste out of the Glencairns. So, and it has the Scotchy Bourbon Boy logo. Anybody interested, feel free to ask us, put a comment down. They are for sale. But with that said, now we are on to the body. My definition of the body is, one, how it holds in the glass and then drops down. And this is probably exactly what you want out of a body. The legs just drop down, it drops back into the golden aspect, the color of bourbon. So that part is just perfect. Then my part of the drinking part of the body is how much of that bourbon fills your mouth. A lot of times the bourbon will just go right over your tongue. There's not a lot in your mouth. And then the finish is what's left in your mouth. And it's just like this particular bourbon, the taste fills my mouth completely. So from a body standpoint, this is a 90 proof, 45 ABV. There's no doubt that the rich taste that starts in your mouth and then goes all around it and stays eventually. So I'm going to give this a 23 on body, especially for a 90 proof. This basically is a flavorful, rich body bourbon that fills your mouth with bourbon taste. So I give it a 23.
Xavier.
I'm not seeing the same legs that you're seeing.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Maybe.
I mean, it's pretty.
I think the body is merely a continuation of the taste, and it's consistent. So I gave the taste a 20. I'll give the body a 20.
Fine. It's a reasonable score. I would have to agree more towards tiny side. The body is definitely full mouthfeel. You do have to give it a little bit of a swish for it to, really coat your mouth, but it stays there. And it stays there throughout into the finish. It stays there throughout into the extended finish, which is part of the spicy hold that Mrs. Tiny was talking about in the taste there. So I give this a 22 on the
22.
body.
All right.
And I will give it a 23, so a little bit higher score than the taste.
Mrs. Tiny gives it a 23.
Same as Mr. Tiny.
Now it's up to
Yeah.
Mrs. Xavier to.
Which is purely coincidental, because like I said, I already picked my numbers out before.
I'm second. I'm second.
Mrs. Xavier,
I'd say
what do you give the
about
body?
21.
21. No.
21.
All right. So then last is the finish. The finish is how long? It's definitely a short finish.
Oh yeah.
It's minty and sweet.
Yeah.
So the minty and sweet gets me to 15. So I'm gonna go 19 on the finish.
19.
I mean, it gives you a hug. It's bourbon. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
15 is average.
Yep.
And I give it a 19, a little bit above average. It's not like one of the things Scotches do with their smokiness. They always linger really long. It's like you can even get 5-10 minutes afterwards. No, I love the mintiness and I love the sweetness. So that's what takes me up to a 19
Right.
and gives it a little bit more above average. So I give it a 19.
Technically tiny, 12 and a half would be average.
Okay. Thanks. You're such a dick, young
I'm
guys.
sorry.
Young Nose is fully on board with the half scores now.
50
It's
divided.
just like,
You know,
school the F out of
At
me.
the start of this,
Just
there was
50
no such
divided by
thing as a
4.
half top score,
12 and a half,
and now
not
he's
15.
articulating top scores. Just so you
It's
know.
like,
So it's a
what
learning
the-
experience for everybody.
I tried to do it. I was trying to be cool, but
All
let's
right.
try that again. All right, let's try it one more time.
I was trying this whole
Nope,
time.
it's not gonna
to say-
happen.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
Anyway, Xavier, your
All
score.
right, Xavier. Okay. The finish is a good finish. Nothing overwhelming about it. Could be a little sweeter maybe because we all seem to we agree that we like a sweeter finish. But it's good. I mean, it's nice. It doesn't stay with you as long as some. I'm just gonna continue the 20 trend there, and we'll go with a 20 on the finish. I do want to say something that this bourbon, like so many others, maybe it's like all others, but we just don't perceive it depending on where our palates are with respect to the product that we're tasting. But we had some of this just a few nights ago when we did the podcast.
Yeah.
And
On Tuesday,
like
yeah.
so many other bourbons, after it's been opened for a bit, it takes on a different taste. And I can say that it's more pleasing to my palate now than it was 3 days ago. So we're going to go with 20s across, except for the nose, which was 15. So with that, I pass it to
Yeah.
Mrs. Tiny.
No, young nose first.
Oh, Young Nose, my God. Young Nose. Young Nose.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, forgive me. We're going to Young Nose.
It's okay, you're forgiven. The finish is short, but it does hold that nice heat, has the nice sweet finish. The mint definitely carries in there, so it gives a little extra bonus points, if you will. But it is underwhelming. I wish it was a little bit longer. I wish the taste was a little bit more. It kind of lingers into the oaky once the mint goes away. So I have to give it a 16.
16. 16 for you.
I hope you can add.
Now we go to Mrs. Tiny.
Yeah,
I'm going to give it a
44 and
20.
23.
A
She gives a
20
20
on the
44.
taste.
I enjoy the
So I gave it a
the finish
77.
of it. It's not too overpowering. Yes, it's a little short, but you can just take another sip.
Oh, I love
There you
bourbon.
go. Now we have, move this way. We have, I'm sorry, move this way. We don't know our left from our right. So move your other right.
No, it's opposite on the thing.
Yeah,
You just have no idea.
Mrs. Xavier, what do you think of the finish?
Well, as everyone has said, it is short. And I like the taste to stay in my mouth for a lot longer.
So you're going to give it?
I'm going to give it a 17.
Ooh,
All right.
17.
All right, everybody mathematically add their scores. I will go first. I give Bulleit Bourbon an 80. Jim Murray gave it an 87.
Correct.
But he ripped the hell out of it. I'm
Yeah.
going to give it an 80 and a thumbs up.
I give it, by my math, 75.
That's
But it's
correct.
still,
Correct math?
a good
Yeah, that
bourbon,
is
you know.
correct math.
Anybody wants to send me a bottle
Well,
of
no.
Bulleit Bourbon, I'll say
Average
thank you
bourbon,
very much.
average
Yeah,
bourbon
right.
is
It's
50.
good bourbon.
It's,
Yeah.
it's three-quarters of a bourbon.
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah,
damn
good stuff. Enjoyable bourbon.
Young Nose gave
Young
it a
Nose.
77.
77 for
80.
Young Nose.
77, 75. We
Mrs.
head to the important.
To the blonde
ladies.
taste test. Mrs. Tiny,
I think I was an 83, right?
right? Mrs. Tiny gives it 83. Mrs. Xavier,
76.
All right.
76.
All right.
Mrs. Tiny, add them up and divide by 5, please. You definitely have a phone with a calculator.
76, 83. What were you, Jeff? 80?
80, 75 for Bill.
75.
and 77 for Young Nose.
77.
Yep.
Divide by 5.
Oops, that didn't work.
Whoops.
Whoopsie.
Whoop,
That means
there it
we need
is.
more bourbon.
Okay, rattle those numbers off again.
Okay. 80,
80,
75,
77,
77, 76, and
83.
86.
83.
Did you give it an 83,
She gave
Rachel?
it an
Yeah, she
83.
gave it an 83.
Damn.
No, I don't know what Rachel gave it, but Mrs. Tiny.
78.2.
Woo! Wait.
So let's just cut it off
78.2.
to 78.
Okay, 78.2 is what we give Bulleit Bourbon, everybody. Now, we are the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We podcast. Follow us. Friend. What is it? What do you
Subscribe.
do? Subscribe.
You subscribe to the podcast. You follow us on Facebook.
Subscribe to Apple Podcasts,
And you follow-
iHeartRadio,
Well,
and Spotify.
If you really want to
please.
be technical, it's you subscribe to the podcast.
Right.
You like us on Facebook. You follow
you
us
can-
on Instagram because we have the page. Remember?
You also can follow us on Twitter.
And
Twitter.
And also on the Facebook group, and so just we're everywhere. Look for the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Afterwards, if you'd like to be a part of our finish party, we play a little bit of music, we drink a little bit more, we talk about about the Bulleit Bourbon afterwards. So anybody who would like to be in the finish party, in about 5 to 10 minutes, I will start a Facebook.
Finish party.
No, a finish party, but it's through Facebook Messenger. I will take you, put you on the Messenger, and hook up, and we can talk individually live.
And
So
Jeff's going to do that. I'm sorry, Tiny's going to do that as soon as we're finished.
as soon as we're finished and we get everything
Well, we're going to
organized, we
finish
gotta
party.
stop the. We do video record, and we also are on YouTube. This will be on YouTube. So, with that said, I think this has been another successful Whiskey Live tasting. In 2 weeks, we will be doing this again. So look for us. We will let you know within 5 to 10 days what the bourbon is going to be. So everybody, thank you very much, and
Thanks for joining us, folks. Hope to see you at
night.
the finish party. Have a good night and cheers.
how do you stop this? Okay.
Turn the
Keep
camera
passing
off.
it.
Where do you do that? Okay.
Surprisingly enjoyable.
Wait. Event logo.
I didn't like it.
Where does
We're
it
going
say
to stop
stop?
any moment now.
Yeah, we're trying. And live video.
I think that's it. Wow.
And live video.
No,